Okay, now the first question is going to be about the mayor's recent tax proposal for roads and services and council's amendments, which limited it to 5 years, and his subsequent veto. He's been saying that council wanted the measure vetoed because they didn't want to have to campaign for or against it, didn't want to complicate their race. I'm going to ask you each if you think that's true, and beyond that, how you feel about the substance of his proposal and the amendment. And what about the future? Will Brook Park need a tax measure in the future, and what kind? I'm going to let Jim go first on this one.
Okay. As far as what Mayor Coyne says about it, he's always postured it his way and stated his position. I'm not going to address the way he talks about it because I'm running for council president. As far as the scheduling of it, you know, he introduced the ordinance back in the middle of June. There wasn't a meeting for over 30 days. They called a special meeting to do it. The scheduling of it, it really butted up right next to the filing deadline to get it on the ballot, even with the changes that they made and the potential for veto. And that's one of the things that I think a council president should administer more. The fact that it was that close, if it's an important issue like a tax proposal, it should be done with plenty of time so that it could be well discussed and done and not end up in a deadline where they can't get to the ballot on it. So I think as far as was it mishandled, yes, council and the mayor weren't responsible to bring it up soon enough and give it enough time so that it can be fully discussed and get to the ballot.
Okay, Tony?
Thank you, Grant. As we all know, taxes come into the city in various ways, but you know you have to raise revenue when the income is down in the city from tax collections, especially Ford plants and different things. There's a capital improvements grant that you know that went on the ballot, or was going to go at least, and it was the only way we can have any more money come into the city is raise taxes, economic development, or cut services. At this point in time, the mayor chose to go down the road of raising taxes 0.5%. At that point, I was the person who made the amendment for the 0.5% to be a limited cap of 5 years. I felt as the other people like the hospitals and parks, et cetera, did a 5-year cap, we can earn the trust of the people as we needed to, come back and ask them for more money. Had we done the proper job, they would have granted us the right to have more money. $5.4 million a year, equal $27 million, is more than enough money to do the roads and programs we have in our hands at this point. We have to have a 5-year plan put in place, and we've only done at least about $2 million a year in roads and sewers. We have never exceeded that, so $5.4 million a year would have been more than enough to do that. At that point, I felt 5-year cap was plenty of time for the next mayor or the person who's going to be running for mayor to come in and then finish the plan and then have a plan of their own. And I feel we did the correct thing, is putting a 5-year cap on, and I still believe that's the route we have to take, is to earn the trust of the people after the last 21 months of the different taxations that went on the ballot.
Jim, you have 60 seconds now if you want to reply to what he said or add to your own remarks.
Well, I think one of the things you have to do, if he talks about earning the trust of the people, that should have been done over the last 20 months. It shouldn't be done by saying, well, we'll just limit the tax increase for 5 years and show you that we can do things when they've had 20 months to do that and they've failed to do that. As far as increasing the taxes, you know, just a few years ago, the city was collecting between $16 and $17 million in taxes, and then this year they're projected maybe $18.5 million, and because jobs are coming back to Ford Motor, so revenue is going up. If they would have done something as far as showing some constraint over the past 20 months, you're asking the people to pay more at the same time that services are being cut and facilities are being shut down. It's just that doesn't make a trustworthy situation.
Tony?
We've moved some money around in the budget. When we did the budget, we've allocated funds and appropriations, and we took in 21.6, and we've spent appropriations 21.3. We have a surplus of basically around 300,000. Let me give you a round figure. And the thing is that as far as that goes, we are doing programs to go ahead and help the city move forward. I think as far as earning trust, the mayor, we all know, runs the city. We hold the purse strings to the city. The mayor runs the city as a CEO, comes forward with a budget, and we go ahead and approve that budget or move monies around. We did work together in certain areas, but then again, we disagree in others where we've stopped some things by moving some money around. I think we've earned the trust of the people. I think the thing is, and the fact is, with this taxation, people throughout the country and the world are disappointed in their elected officials. And when it comes to taxation, that's what I mean by earning the trust of the people. Overall, people are fed up with their government. Thank you.
Okay, now I want to follow up by asking just a little more about what you would do about taxes now. Supposing either of you wins and you take office in January, what do you think? Does the city need more revenue? What kind? There have been several, as Jim mentioned, there have been several different tax proposals in the last nearly 2 years. So what would you propose, if anything, and how much and why? And we'll let you start on this one.
Thank you, Grant. Unfortunately, throughout the the years of now, the new governor came in and tightened up an $8 billion hole that he's had on the backs of the municipalities, and through unfortunate property tax diminishing throughout the city, Ford Plant closed down one of its buildings, stopped paying property tax on certain parts of that. Unfortunately, the income tax credit that we've had, or at least, the collection has gone down according to those figures, and when houses were about 143 down to 90 somewhere now. We do need revenue in this city. We have to do that. Economic development is very tough. We brought in a Harley dealership. Unfortunately, one dealership worth a $5 million building is going to bring only about $29,000 in tax revenue in. We do need bigger buildings of revenue, no different than Ford Plant. We need to do something with that building. We put some things in place like brownfield programs to go ahead and help try to get the Ford Motor Plant to do something there and help them with the renovation. They are a $1 billion corporation, but they did say and came to the table and said we're the first city in the United States that actually has tried to do something to help an outfit like them, and they're really looking at doing something over there, which hopefully will bring some new revenue, which is a giant amount of revenue. We now have NASA, of course, through the airport settlement agreement. They give us a good chunk of dollars, but we still need to continue to look for more, and I would support a taxation for infrastructure in the future, and a 0.5% increase like we were trying to do just recently.
Okay, Jim.
As far as supporting a tax increase, I would not support a tax increase right away. I think as we'd be taking office, as I'm taking office, we'd be going into the budget process. I think you would end up seeing that through the budget process, we would find out whether or not the city is going to be fiscally responsible enough to go to the public and ask for a tax increase. They talk about tightening their belts, but this past year for the budget, the finance director identified that they reduced payroll by $1.6 million, and that there was another payment that was $400-some thousand from an employee buyout program that they were no longer going to be having. So he identified over $2 million in personnel costs that were being reduced, yet the appropriations for this year matched the appropriations for last year. My opponent talks about moving some money around. That's a nice soft way of saying what they did is they went into a savings program and they went to the bank, the city's bank. They had $1 million in the savings, and he took it out and put it into some of these programs. So after listening for 20 months about how it was bad that we're spending down our savings, the city went out and did the same thing. So those are the type of things I think before you go to a tax increase, those are the type of things you have to show the public that you're not going to do those anything. It's not going to be business as usual and politics as usual. It's going to be we're going to do it practically and we're going to do it reasonably. Thank you.
Tony, any reply or follow-up?
Yeah, I guess on the remark of moving money around, I guess there was a comment made unilaterally that what we did was, and you wouldn't know unless I explained, for instance, stopping privatization by taking 900,000 plus and moving it back to where it should be, and we did not allow privatization and certain things like that. We tried to make sure we were fiscally responsible and kept things in the city that were operating the way we wanted to. As far as cutting services, we don't think that we really want to have that happen. We've seen that happen already, and we are against that. Again, economic development has a hard time in this city with what all around the world bringing businesses in. And again, if I was to raise taxes, I'll have to restate that, I guess. Of course, as the finance chair, March 31st comes quick once you get in office. The first 90 days, we would have to, by state, have that down to the State House as far as approval and balanced. And of course, then after that, we'd be taking a look because we would never get it on the ballot anyways prior to probably November of next year.
Jim?
Yes, sir.
Any follow-up or reply? 60 more seconds if you want them.
Well, it's just a matter of, when they sit there and say they're moving money around, it's just meant to, I believe, confuse the public that doesn't necessarily understand the budget process so much. Moving money around to stop privatization was just a matter of saying, no, we're going to have the people that were doing the job continue the job, because it's a proven fact that the city of Brook Park can provide these services cheaper than a private company. So privatization is a bad idea. It doesn't save the city any money. In fact, it costs city money. It's just common sense to realize that if you're going to bring a company in to do it and they have to make a profit, that it's going to cost the city more money to do that. So they took money out of the sound insulation program. There was $1 million in there. That was a savings fund, and they put it in to do some things with economic development and some of the community development programs. That was spending the savings down.